Blood Time, the podcast that speaks to the bond, the emotion between coach and athlete at the interscholastic and intercollegiate level. Each interview, each segment will reveal that bond and what was learned, how they were transformed, and what each athlete took to the world at large from that transformation. These stories will warm your heart and astound you altogether. Submitted for your approval. Now it is blood time. I want to thank Serve Pro of Beechwood, our newest sponsor, and Jack Coslin, the owner. They serve all of Northeast Ohio, not just Beechwood. They specialize in disaster cleanup that leaves your home or office like new, like it never happened. Flood and water damage, fire, mold, and they say even blood and guts. Not just any Serve Pro. Seek out Serve Pro of Beechwood. That's Serve Pro Beechwood, Shaker Heights, ClevelandHeights.com, 216-464-4498. Operated by a former All-State wrestler from Beechwood, we love Serve Pro of Beechwood. Welcome. Blood Time with Coach Cimoroni. I want to thank my last guest, Michael Friedman, and his wonderful book, Bible of Blunders. Get it wherever you can. And I want to talk about what he said that really resonated with me about, again, authenticity. I love the authenticity he brings to the marketplace, but more importantly, we've got that now with Dr. Jen Welter and him. So it's really a core theme, as well as preparation. He is so prepared when he goes in and meets sometimes billionaires. It's a wonderful, wonderful story, and I'm glad that he was part of Blood Time. Thank you, Michael Friedman. Welcome to our next guest, Mary Herrick. How are you, Mary?
Fine, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Mary is a world-renowned and very decorated tennis coach, as well as the passionate leader of a new event that we want to talk about today. But Mary, welcome, and Dawn Kendrick. How are you, Dawn?
I'm good. I'm here because I'm her self-appointed biggest fan.
Oh, well, you're a dear friend, and you've been a great supporter of a number of this projects that I've done in my life. Thank you for your wonderful reporting over the years for a number of stations, Channel 3, Channel 19, correct? And now you're doing it on your own, right?
We're looking for the next great calling, is what we say, to show those good stuff stories to get a bigger platform for them. And this woman and what she's tied into and where she's been and where she's going and what she does for kids is quintessential, the good stuff.
Love it. Love it. So, Mary, I want to start with Blood Time. Blood Time means the bond between the coach and the athlete. Tell me, who was your inspiration when you were a young athlete to let you do what you do today, to inspire you to do what you do today? Tell me a little bit about that person.
Okay.
Or persons.
That's way back when, but
I've been there. I resemble that remark.
Yeah. So let me just think back here, but it immediately comes to mind is my parents really didn't have a whole lot of money when I was a child.
Okay.
You know, they just worked very hard. They were, busy all the time. So
as every parents were, right? Back there.
That's right.
Back in
the day. I
day.
enrolled in the Parks and Recreation Department in our city.
What city was that?
My parents were working in Elyria, Ohio.
Sure.
Yeah. So we had a coach there who happened to be the high school coach. And his name was Jim Rakestraw, and he was a wonderful man. And I think we went out there on those tennis courts, and they were 2 blacktop courts with the graduating year spray painted on the courts.
I love it.
And chain link fences for nets. And there probably were 70 children on those 2 tennis courts.
Sure.
And we were out there in, just cut off shorts and T-shirts and our $1.79 racket from Kmart.
I love it.
Off we went.
Absolutely. Whatever it took, let's do it.
And it just immediately, there was just something about tennis that just struck me. And that was it. I was hooked. And so I couldn't wait to go every day. Yeah. I was probably obnoxious. I was there all the time. Right. And he started laughing. And one day he looked at my parents and he said, he handed him a book of tennis tournaments for the Northeast Ohio Tennis Association and said, I think Mary would really like to play in tennis tournaments.
I love that.
And that was it. That was the beginning for me.
It's interesting because I had the honor to interview Lee Kemp, Lee Kemp is arguably one of the top 5 wrestlers in the history of our country. And the passion, being obnoxious, Jim Deppenbrock was his coach, okay? Similar to Jim, your coach, right? And he wouldn't allow sometimes Deppenbrock to go home. He said, and he'd stay there till 7, 8 o'clock, and he'd say, "Lee, go home. I got to see my wife." So he was obnoxious about being passionate about the sport. So I'd love to hear that. So your passion was started in Elyria with Jim and his last name. I'm sorry, Rakestraw.
Yes.
And so tell me about how that matriculated through high school and obviously college, and how you became a tennis star and then an internationally known tennis coach.
Yeah, well, there were actually a lot of steps in between there, but I'd like to share with you a couple really neat things that happened that probably had a very profound effect on me as I became a coach later. For example, when they first opened the first indoor tennis facility, we went to a local mall, and they had a target on the wall, and you had to try to serve and hit the target.
I love
it. And of course, I hit the bullseye. Of course, right?
Of course. Yeah. Mary's in the house, baby.
It was so funny. I think everybody hit the bullseye. It was so big. But the point was, they told us about the club, and I thought, I'll never get to play indoor tennis. And sure enough, my father and mother took me over to that club to play indoor tennis, and I started playing, and it was just absolutely wonderful, And so I was there all the time and playing, and fun things happened to me while I was there. I would go out on Fridays, and all the men at the club would serve to me and help me with my game, and
I love that.
they all joined in. And one day, I'll never forget, I was up playing with this gentleman, and he said to me, "Hey, there's something in the back of the court in that tennis can for you." And I ran back there and I grabbed the tennis can, and here was a check for $2,000 for me to play tennis tournaments that he gave to my parents. So that I could play tournaments.
Isn't that
those are the kind of things
sublime?
that just made such an impact on me. And then I started playing Northeast Ohio tournaments. And the Wilson representative came, and he saw me play, and he gave me free rackets that made me think a little bit more, So when you have somebody along the way encouraging you every step of the way, even if it isn't a big thing,
of course,
just anything to make you think, they think I'm good.
That is the next
plateau.
They think I'm
okay.
The next step. Right. Exactly right. So let's honor your mom and dad. What are their names?
Philip and Mary Cobb.
Philip and Mary Cobb.
Yeah, and they were from Elyria, Ohio, and they both passed away about 2 years ago, and they were married for 64 years.
God
they were
bless.
Absolutely wonderful people.
That's
so supportive. Did everything.
So they took that book and they took
you
around.
You bet. They did
Absolutely.
everything. That's
and
exactly right.
And here we go. We get the individual that writes the $2,000 check, or individuals. And then the Wilson.
No, it was one guy.
Okay.
It was one guy.
Do we want to mention
one
his name?
One marvelous guy. No, I better not do
okay,
that. But it was one very nice person.
How beautiful is that? Yeah.
And so, as we kept moving, went to tournaments, and my parents used to laugh. They'd say, "Well, we were fine while she was losing, but now that she's winning, we're paying for hotels and flights and things." And one thing led to another, and I was nationally ranked by the time I was, in the 18s. So it was a lot of fun. Yeah, it was great. It was a great childhood. It was a great way to grow up.
Absolutely.
And there were a lot of people in our community that were very supportive of me and helped me along the way. So I've always remembered that. I've always tried to do the same thing in my career with the things that I'm doing, and I've been very blessed. So yes.
So that's a marvelous foundation.
It was, yeah.
And so now, what transformed you from an athlete?
Mm-hmm.
What was there a moment to a coach, or was there moments?
Actually there was. I actually went and, I started teaching tennis when I was 16 years old.
Oh, wow.
To help pay for my court time.
Makes sense. Makes a lot of sense.
Which was wonderful.
Absolutely,
and I loved teaching. From the very beginning, I just loved teaching.
Okay.
And then I went down to Florida and taught for Nick Bollettieri at his tennis academy. And I don't know if you're familiar with Nick, but he had Andre Agassi and Carlene Bassett and a lot of good professional players. Yes. And I started teaching there, and that was pretty much it. I knew I was hooked. That was it. Yeah.
He's our guy. My mother's Armenian, so we like Andre. He's got that Armenian blood in him. So,
everybody loves Andre
He's got the
Agassi.
fire, man, right? Yeah,
and he's married to Steffi Graf.
Absolutely.
How can you get any better than that, right?
Tennis royalty, right?
Yes,
tennis
that's right.
royalty.
I'm sure their children will be as well.
Absolutely. It's unbelievable. So you go down there and you have that opportunity at this tennis academy in Florida. How does that form you? What does that do to mold you?
Right. Well, I spent a lot of time watching Nick develop players that were beginners to nationally ranked players. And most of the people that he worked with were top ranked players, okay, because it was an academy and there were more kids from other nations than there actually were from different states. So it was really a lot of fun to be there, you know.
Sure.
But then I took a job as a tennis teaching professional in Florida and started teaching down in Southwest Florida.
Yes.
I was down there for
in Naples area. Yes. Fantastic.
I was down there for 10 years.
Okay.
Yeah. And then ended up coming back up to Ohio and teaching here.
Wow.
So I've been around a lot of places. I've worked at academies and resorts and clubs and parks and recs. I've coached high school tennis. So I've had a lot of opportunity to be in the sports industry and the coaching industry.
What high school did you coach at?
Elyria Catholic.
Elyria Catholic.
Yeah, so of course I came back and coached at my home school.
Okay,
yes.
so you know we just interviewed Bob France.
Oh, okay. Great.
And his son, I think, is going to be graduating from Elyria Catholic, the football team.
Yeah.
And he loves Elyria Catholic, and he's
a wonderful school and he's a wonderful community.
Wonderful guy too.
Yeah.
And so you could. So is there any story you'd like to share with about a transformative moment with an athlete that you had as a coach? That now that person is doing something pretty cool in the real world?
Yeah, there are just so many kids that I've had an opportunity to work with that are doing cool things in the real world.
Super.
I have to tell you that there's probably one story that really comes to mind, and I know that I can mention it only because recently, as we discussed prior to coming on the air, that I actually was inducted into the Hall of Fame.
Yes, congratulations.
For the USPTA.
Yep, fantastic.
For the United States Professional Tennis Association. So my daughter, unbeknownst to me, went out and contacted a lot of the students that I had coached over the years and put together this unbelievable book of stories of all of the people that, you know, I had worked with. And one of them really comes to mind as special. She had cancer when she was young. She was actually on our Olympic team for the Junior Olympics for the AAUs. And she was on the team that qualified for the nationals, but then wasn't able to go. Wow. And so her team, you know, this was before we had all these wonderful technology things where we could actually talk to people, you know, when we were at home. Right. But they called her after every match and, you know, made it a mission that they were going to win the Olympics for her. Oh, and sure enough, they did. Yes. And it was just amazing. And you probably remember at the time, Tim White was an anchor person in Cleveland. Yes. And Tim actually came out to our little club in Lorain and did a fundraiser for her. We did a 24-hour fundraiser. Wow. And we raised the money for Kimberly to go to college, to Kent State, because we were thinking that we were looking at the future and where she was going to be down the road. Sure. And I am happy to tell you that she is not only a graduate of Kent State, but she is married and she is just working in our community and just is wonderful.
That is,
and she's had cancer a couple times and she's been through a lot. So it was just for me, it was just such a dynamic story. I can't think of anything that was more important than that particular story right there, because she's just a lovely girl from a wonderful family, and her sister played tennis as well. And it just, when I see her, you know, on social media and everything, it just warms my heart every time I see her. So, yeah, those are the stories that are really important to me.
Well, that is a heart-swelling story. Yeah. There's no question about that. And multiple cancer survivor. But more importantly, the galvanization, the galvanizing of a community to come together to create something better than themselves.
Yes.
You know, bigger than themselves.
Right.
And so, having said that, you know, you're coaching, you're teaching, you're inspiring, but now there's something that's hitting home here, okay? And that's why Dawn's here as well.
Yes.
And she is your cheerleader. She is your advocate, right?
Yeah, Dawn has done an unbelievable job representing the nonprofit that I'm involved with, which is the Blessing House in Lorain County.
Fantastic.
And the Blessing House is a children's crisis care center for newborn to 12-year-old children.
Oh, wow.
It's a wonderful story, and I know that when we had an opportunity to talk to Dawn about it and introduce the whole story to her, she just immediately understood exactly where we were. So the bond that we've had with her has just been fantastic, and I can't thank her enough for everything that she's done to help us.
That is an absolute pure soul right there.
Oh, yes, it is. You better believe it.
Yeah. So this magnificent charity, this magnificent organization, please tell us a little bit about that, and how can we get involved, and what is the mission?
Okay, wonderful. I can talk all day about the Blessing House.
Well, we want you to talk at least another 15 minutes.
Okay, great.
Absolutely.
That's good.
Exactly right.
So the Blessing House was founded in 2005. It's actually 15 years old, and over 1,500 children have gone through the Blessing House. Wow. It's a children's crisis care center. So When children are in trauma of some type or in a crisis situation, parents can voluntarily drop their children off at the Blessing House. The way the Blessing House got started, it was actually founded by two women, Sister Mary Berrigan and Donna Humphrey. And these two women actually were advocates in the court system in Lorain County representing children in the court system. And Sister Mary realized that there was this gap of children that were a little bit, it was being a little neglected. One, part of the children would go into children's services and part of the children would go home before maybe the families were really ready to take them. And so there needed to be something in between where the children could go someplace that was safe, that provided this safe environment for them, and then help their families get out of the crisis and be able to take their children back safely into their home. And so, when it started, again, it was, 15 years ago, and there are over 1,500 handprints on the walls of every child that's ever been in the house. So amazing. The children actually come there, they're put in clean pajamas and they brush their teeth and wash their face and put them to bed in a safe place. And they get up in the morning and they drive them to the school that they originally go to. And so they take care of those children until they come back to their homes. So they're placed back in their homes.
Wow, that is just a brilliant positioning.
Yeah, well, it's grown. So we're kind of in a situation now where, we were only able to take 10 children in this nice little house. And we are now growing to 28 children. So we have just launched a capital campaign in November at our Rockabye Ball that takes place, that we are now going to build a new 16,000 square foot facility in Lorain County.
Phenomenal. So that's the footprint, is Lorain County?
Yes, it is. It is. However, we do get children from other counties. It's not, we do, yes. But it's located in Lorain County.
Now, how does that work? Is there any type of form or procedure or protocol that you have to go through, or is it sit outside?
You pick up the phone and call.
Beautiful.
You stop at the house. Beautiful. And then yes, they do an intake, of course, because they're licensed. The house is licensed, so it's very professionally run and 24-hour staff, 365 days of the year. And they've worked with Governor DeWine, with the new family project to try to make sure that the families are secure. At any rate, we have a waiting list right now of probably 25 to 45 kids per week to get into the Blessing House, and we can't take additional children because of our licensing. So we're really, really in a hurry to get this house built, because sometimes what happens is you hear something in the newspaper the next morning if you haven't been able to take that child in. And that's a very scary situation for all of us. So,
absolutely. So you're sitting to your right is Dawn. Dawn, how did you get involved with this? And tell us a little bit about your passion for it.
Well, the stories that I love the most are what we call the good stuff stories. And there are grassroots people who are rising up. And often it's in the face of the not good, the really bad. And this is exactly what the Blessing House is doing. So they see a need. They have, it's not too dramatic to say they have saved lives. They're changing lives every day. They're changing the trajectory of generations. When they are able to say, listen, it's hard to be parents now. They have so much, the pressure on the Blessing House to serve more and more people with the inherent drug crisis and all of this. There's so much to say, we will step in, we will help you in this moment of crisis. That's the good stuff. So this is how I became involved in it. I just really believe in this campaign. We're halfway home to a home that's going to serve. It's tangibly being the good stuff for these families. So that's kind of the short version. I would do this in my sleep if I do. Sometimes we do. We're texting each other at 6 a.m. Like, what are we doing? But there's so much momentum. And if you're listening to this right now, blessinghouse.org, you can go right on the top part of it right there and help bring this home. It's grassroots and it's tangibly helping. You watch the news, the headlines. When I'm a reporter here for 18 years, I just had my anniversary. You see the headlines and it breaks your heart. And you think, oh my gosh, is there any good left in the world? I'm here to tell you there is. We're rubbing elbows with them in the grocery store. Mary won't tell you, but she's also president of that board there. She has a list a mile long of things that she is. Christ Child Society, I'll go on and on. She's like, Dawn, stop talking. But this is an example. What do you think what can you do today? If you're upset by the headlines, how do you be the change?
Sure.
And if you want to jump on board with us at blessinghouse.org, we would be so happy to show you how your money is tangibly changing lives.
I love that. And, I just blogged out this poster saying a good coach can change a game, a great coach can change a life, and I'll submit, save a life. And so what we're doing here is ultimate coaching. It's the ultimate coach, right? The ultimate mentor, the ultimate love. And if you don't lead with love, like you're saying here, you're not saying it, but you're saying it. What do we do in this world?
Don't you find in the coaches nowadays more than ever are so much more than a coach? That word, coach, has evolved to mentor, sometimes surrogate parent, right?
Oh, God, yes.
And what a blessing to be called to that kind of, not just a career, it becomes a calling.
It is the last almost area of authority figure, respected authority figure.
Right.
And it's an interesting situation that's occurring. That the great coaches create families, create ecosystems, create cultures, right? And so you're creating a culture here of success, of good, of save. Maybe we're saving situations, but the ultimate thing that occurs is the ripple effect. And so when I coach young men, and I say good and bad does not happen in a vacuum. It ripples out. So whenever you can, do good always.
Yes.
And so here's what I hear, that you guys are doing good always.
We would be so remiss, Peter, too, when you're talking about coaching. I'm turning this mic back to Mary, because the most immediate thing on the agenda is coming up February 9th.
Yes, talk about it,
This
please.
is specifically for coaches. It's her brainchild. She is a coach.
Right.
She knows, she gets it, how important your roles are as coaches.
Sure.
So there's a great opportunity coming up at Rocket Mortgage.
Yes, talk a little bit about that.
I'm so excited about it.
Yes,
so
absolutely.
excited about it. We have an amazing speaker coming in that actually believes in all of the things that we're talking about right now. His name is John O'Sullivan. He started a project called Changing the Game Project in 2012. He is a best-selling author. His book, his sports book, was just #1 on the Amazon sports list over the holiday. It's called Every moment matters.
Every moment matters.
Every
it
moment
does.
matters.
And there's one that you find was before that was a bestseller, right? Changing the Game or something like that.
It was Changing the Game, the Parent's Guide to Raising Happy, High-Performing Athletes and Giving Youth Sports Back to Our Kids.
Love that.
Okay, and that's what he talks about. He talks about the importance of a
Stop
parent
living
going
vicariously
to an event
through the kid.
Right.
Let the kid be the kid, right? And let him enjoy that.
Looking at your child and saying, I love to watch you play.
I love that.
And leaving the field and saying that to their child, and that would be the only part that they would be a part of.
Play,
so,
play,
have fun,
play.
Have fun.
That's right.
That's exactly
of course, we're the only sport that doesn't play. We wrestle.
Yeah.
Just saying, we're not players.
That's
we're
true.
wrestlers.
That's true.
But anyhow, go ahead. Yes. So the event.
Yeah. So John is just like I can't say enough about him because he's a TED Talk speaker.
Sure.
He's an international speaker. We're just really, really blessed that he's coming here, and it's going to be a lot of fun. The event starts at 5:00 in the evening. We're going to do a networking with appetizers and drinks and network. And then he's going to do a presentation. And then we're all going to a Cavs versus LA Clippers game together.
What's wrong with that,
so
right?
How fun, right?
Absolutely,
the tickets are available. They're only $100 to go. And we have we actually have a lot of businesses sponsoring tables.
It's an all-inclusive package is what you're saying.
That's exactly
great.
right.
Okay,
and we have a lot of businesses that are sponsoring tables and either donating the tickets to coaches at schools or people they feel would really benefit from going.
Okay.
There are also parents of athletes that are attending and people in the sports industry.
Sure.
So we just are going to have a great night. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's February 9th.
Okay.
It's a Sunday evening, which
Perfect.
is not Super Bowl, which is really great.
Exactly. Yeah, that would not be a good.
No,
that would not be a good one. Yeah,
and it's going to be a great
Probably
game.
Dawn had maybe a little part of that, right?
Yes.
Scheduling a little bit.
And Tim Alcorn, the new voice of the Cleveland Cavaliers. He and his
Yes.
wife Diane have been really involved in helping us with this event. They're from Lorain County as well. So
that's fantastic.
So it's great.
That is fantastic.
And you save $50, I must say, if you buy a table of 8. Right?
That's true.
Yeah, $750. What a deal, right?
That is a phenomenal deal. So where's the actual dinner, or is it a dinner?
It's at the
it's at
Mortgage
the
Field House.
Okay, that
it's
makes
actually
sense,
in the Bridges room. We're going to all meet there. There'll be the presentation will be there.
Okay.
We'll network there, and then
so
go
when
right
is it going
down
to start
the
again?
game.
When is it going to start again? What time?
5 o'clock.
5 o'clock,
Yes.
and the game is what? 7?
7:30.
Oh, 7:30.
Great
So,
networking opportunity
It's
for
a great-
coaches.
yes,
that'll be
it is.
fantastic.
And
That'll be
people in the sports industry in general. So
Right.
it'd be a lot of fun. Yes.
fantastic. So it doesn't matter what sport, right? Could be any
That's
sport.
correct.
Could
we
be
have people from all sports coming.
fantastic.
That's
Well, I
right.
like that because blood time is not necessarily about wrestling. Even though it is a wrestling. It's about tennis, right? It's about
Yes.
lacrosse. It's about
Yes,
basketball. It's
football.
about football. It's about
Basketball, baseball,
bowling.
everybody. Yes.
all those wonderful things. So what are we going to accomplish with this event? What's our ultimate takeaway from
The
it?
ultimate takeaway is that this is a fundraiser for the Blessing House,
Perfect.
which is really wonderful. But then I think on the other advantage to this, or the blessing to it, is that all of us have an opportunity to network with one another and talk about how we can change the culture of children in our communities
Sure.
in sports and how we can help them.
Yes.
They're helping children at the Blessing House, and we're
Mhm.
helping those children as they get older and start to transition as they get older into sports. And,
Right.
and I think the idea is that like-minded people will all be there together. And
You
that's
know,
the important part.
And that is it's incredibly important because a moment can completely change the trajectory of a life.
Yes.
And I like to use the term that coaching is just being a rudder, and pointing them towards that point of light. So keeping them on track, if you got to pat them on the butt a few times, or maybe give them a little kick on the or, a massage or whatever that is, just to keep them going to that light, and so that they have the opportunity to go to that light.
Sure.
As long as it's not a train coming at you.
Yeah, sure.
So I love this whole process that you're going through, and this whole system that you've created and have been a part of as a coach, and now have really put your passion into this wonderful Blessing House. And Dawn, I want to really thank you for that as well. And so typically what we do at the end of an interview, and I could talk to you guys for a lot longer about
Do we
this,
hug?
Yes. Well, we're gonna take a picture at the end of that.
Maybe
There's no
you
question
better
about-
water out.
We're gonna hug. There's no question about that. We're gonna take a picture at the end, but we like to leave the audience with a nugget or two of what matters to you in this world and what you would like to leave the rest of the world with. So,
Okay.
Mary, I'm gonna turn it over to you, and then Dawn, please
Yeah.
join in as
Absolutely. I will just tell you that the Blessing House is God's project of hope.
well. Right.
And that's
Right.
the most important thing to me right now, is to find a way to get this house built so that we don't have children in crisis on a waiting list.
Gotcha. That's beautiful. That's beautiful. And Dawn?
Yeah, and Sister Mary will tell you that her biggest fear is seeing in the headlines that a kid that they weren't able to reach ends up in those headlines we don't want to see, right?
Yes.
So we're working towards that. So my little nugget, if I could, and thank you for the opportunity,
Of course.
the mantras of the Good Stuff family and the Good Stuff story, which Blessing House is part of now.
Right.
Two of them. Together we can, together we will, which is what my dad wrote on our cards.
Mm.
Always growing up, I still have his handwriting on my refrigerator.
Mhm.
So the nuclear family of the Hendricks is now bigger
Right.
as he passed away 5 years ago coming up, right? And was
yes.
always a big supporter through all. We played soccer, my brother and I, so
there you
he
go.
was always there.
Yes.
So together we can, together we will.
Yes.
And God weaves, now watch him work.
Okay.
And that's exactly what's happening through the Blessing House, through the opportunity to sit here with you,
Thanks.
for the opportunity to bring in coaches that we know and we celebrate are already doing that. They know that they are woven into these athletes' lives for a reason and for a purpose, and that they have a calling, not just a career. So my nugget is, if you're on the other end of this and hearing this, figure it out. What is it? How do you be part of God Weaves Now Watch Him Work? And know that together we can, together we will. And you kids out there who are relying on Blessing House, you're not alone. Together we can, together we will.
Fantastic. Well, two magnificent women. Thank you so much. USCAnow.com. Thank you, Mary Herrick and Dawn Hendrick, for coming in, and the wonderful people at the Blessing House. You left us with some wonderful nuggets, some great stories. Continue to do great work and pay it forward. This is Coach Cimoroni for Blood Time. We are blood. I want to share my thought of the day with you. Truth, bald face, indisputable truth,
should be adored and held in highest acclaim.